In this video, we are going to learn about what is the actual representation of how values are getting stored with the variables. Are there any containers in which these values get stored? How is the memory management going on? And what exactly is the thing behind when we say variables are named containers? So variables are not any values, or there are no containers as such which are holding these values. This concept can be very well understood by this animation in front of you. So let's say we had a variable which was declared with the identifier let. So we are saying let pet equals to narwhal. So pet was simply referring to the value narwhal in the beginning. Once the reassignment has been done, this pet variable will simply start referring to the new value, which is the kraken. So basically the thing that we have to understand over here is that there are no such containers like pet or something which are actually storing those values. It is simply a referring game over here. Pet in the initial time was referring to narwhal. After some time, when the reassignment is done, it starts referring to the value the kraken. And what happens to the value narwhal? This is simply going to be removed from the memory. Okay, so variables are not the actual values. Variables are simply pointing to the values. Okay, at whatever memory address this value must be stored, the variable is simply going to point to that. Okay, so that is the reason once it has been reassigned to the kraken, narwhal as wherever it is stored in the memory is simply going to be removed from the memory. So that is the reason we say variables are not values. Variables simply point to the values. We are going to learn about some naming conventions of variables that we need to take care of. So here's a question in front of you. Can we name a variable as 12 underscore number? That is var 12 underscore number. Think about it, guys. Take a pause and think about it. Can you name your variables like this? Well, the correct answer is no. You cannot be naming your variables as this. A valid variable name should always start with a letter or an underscore or a dollar sign. These are the only three set of characters which are allowed in terms of starting a variable name. So let me give you an example on Replit as well. Let's clear all of this. Now, if you have to simply make any variable name, a valid variable name can start with a letter like an A or a B or a C, A, B, C, X, Y, Z, whatever you would like to have. You can also have an underscore A, or you can also have a dollar A. All of these use cases are going to be allowed, but you cannot be saying one A. A valid variable name can only start with a letter, underscore, or a dollar. It cannot start with a number. But yes, after you have initialized it with a letter, you can of course use any number as well. Okay, you can also say var a12 equals to 12. Okay, that is completely fine, but it cannot start with a digit as such. Okay, so this is something that we need to take care of. Also, after the first letter, you can use numbers, letters, underscores, or any dollar signs. Also, can you name your variable as a const? Can you say something like var const equals to 5? Think about it again. Take a pause. Well, again, the correct answer is going to be no. We cannot be naming our keywords or our variables as the reserved keywords. So basically, a valid variable name cannot be a reserved keyword of JavaScript. What are reserved keywords? Any keyword which is going to be used in the syntax of JavaScript programming language is simply going to be known as a reserved keyword. Now, since const is also used under the syntax, since it is a valid identifier, you cannot be using that keyword as our variable names. So what is the thing we have learned up till now? Your valid variable names should only start with letter, underscore, and a dollar sign, and it should not be a reserved keyword of JavaScript.